I'm here with Frank Schaeffer, a New York Times bestselling author who ostensibly could be called the father of the Christian right, with his father, Francis Schaeffer. He just spoke to our summer intern program, 2009. A book which caused quite a storm was the book Crazy for God, which is I highly recommend. It really gives a good critique of the Christian right. And basically why we're talking today is that with Obama and his presidency, if the Obama presidency was to go tank and not do well, there's a good chance the Christian right is going to come back. And I think one indicator that we've talked a bit about is Sarah Palin resigning as the governor of Alaska. And as some columnists have indicated, she's being tutored and being given a makeover, and she's going to run probably for president. Some commentators on Fox Network are calling her a genius, and those kind of commentaries. So is the Christian right dead? Is it going to make a comeback? What's your opinion on that?
Well, you know, I got into the Christian right as a young man with my dad, Francis Schaeffer, who was a well-known evangelist in the 70s and 80s. And I encouraged him to take a stand on issues like abortion, other things where we disagreed with the direction the country was taking. And of course, it grew from there into an enormous movement that included gay bashing, included the Second Amendment issues, owning guns, all this other stuff. That
illegal immigrants. Yeah,
hating and standing against illegal immigrants, and then maybe all immigrants too. And it grew into something that really, I believe, became a monster in terms of getting away from its original issue, which was the pro-life issue, which was the idea that life is sacred. You're trying to save unborn babies. Whether you agree with that or not, that wasn't a political movement that was about bashing gay people or any of the other stuff. So I got out of the movement in the mid-'80s, but where it's gone since is a real hardening of positions and essentially become our version, I think, of what the American equivalent of the Taliban is, and that is a theocracy waiting in the wings, ready to impose a particular moral version of a hard-nosed right-wing Christianity on the rest of this country.
And they in a way succeeded with the election of George W. Bush.
Yeah, George W. Bush was their man, and basically this was a foretaste of what you would get. 2 wars before we were done, tens of billions of dollars spent on an undeclared war, middle and lower middle class Americans volunteering to serve, where the right-wing children of wealthy people were not volunteering any more than, say, left-wing Democrat wealthy people were. Very hypocritical situation, a very bad presidency. Barack Obama's been elected, and my view is that the religious right, led by people like Sarah Palin, is waiting in the wings and would very happily come storming back if he fails, which is one reason.
And they're kind of hoping he.
And they're hoping, and they're working.
Rush Limbaugh said that.
Yeah, Rush Limbaugh would like Obama, and therefore the country, if it takes that to fail. They would rather see America fail and go down and win politically at some point than vice versa. So I think we face a real danger from the right. In another way too, and that is that people who are feeling that they have been pushed to the side and have lost, outcasts, the lunatic fringe, if you like, of the right wing, represented by people like this guy who went and assassinated a security guard at the Holocaust Museum, or the person who shot down 3 policemen in Pittsburgh thinking they'd come to take away were going to come and take away his guns. These kinds of people are out there too, and the problem with the rhetoric.
Well, there's a lot of that because, as I've been told by a number of people, ammunition's disappearing. You can't. Some communities you can't get firing pins
because
for
they're
rifles.
buying all this stuff.
It's all gone.
Yeah, and there are
so there is a segment of America that's armed to the teeth.
Right, armed to the teeth, and what you would have to call as sort of the American village idiot. But there's a difference between a community that encourages its village idiots to do crazy things, and people who discourage it. And I think when you look at what Fox News is saying, you look at Sarah Palin's rhetoric, you look at Rush Limbaugh and Coulter and so forth, these people essentially are doing 2 things. They're making their pitch to what you might call sane conservative Americans, but in that pitch is also what I would consider to be a destabilizing element that, when heard by people who are already a little bit paranoid, a bit of a screw loose, a little crazy, raises the temperature and creates an environment in which...
Encouraging the deranged.
Yeah, encouraging the deranged, and basically giving them permission to do things that are very bad. Now, they may not be doing that consciously, but I think that's the environment. And I think, when you look at Sarah Palin, you really see a crossroads of where these worlds meet. You know, her husband and her have been associated with the Alaska secessionist movement, which is about as Fruit Loopy and crazy as anything in this country. These people want to break away from the Union because they regard America as corrupt and evil and illegitimate. They don't want to be part of America at all. And she's spoken for them twice. Her husband's been a member of the group. And in addition to which, these are the sorts of people that store guns and ammunition against the day when people want to take away their rights, whatever. If you look at her association with the Assemblies of God churches, this is what you might call the far fringe of the evangelical movement. People seeing visions, hearing voices, being told to do things by God, casting out demons, believing in witches, all this kind of stuff. When you put all that together, she's a very marginal character, actually, say in comparison to John McCain.
But a very popular margin.
A very popular margin.
10, 15,000 people.
That's right. And I think that's pretty discouraging. I think that, you know, I worked for John McCain in 2000, hoping he'd get elected instead of George Bush in the nominating process back when they were both running against each other. So I'm by no means, you know, of the far left. But I think that the right wing in America has gone to a place now almost of no return, in which you've got to see the game played out. You know, very much like in the 1930s, where you had people like Reverend Cooglin, for instance, who were genuine fascist sympathizers, who were fighting against Roosevelt, calling him a communist, part of a Jewish conspiracy, all these crazy things. You see the same thing from the right now. You know, Obama's not a real American. He's a secret Muslim. Some of these guys are saying...
Or some people on the right labeling him as a Hitler.
Yeah, or even the Antichrist. You know, and these are the same people waiting for Armageddon with, you know, hoping it'll happen so they can all be raptured. So, yeah, there's always a crazy element in society. There are always people who are a little bit unhinged. But I'd say that right now within the Republican Party, and especially within the media, Fox, Ann Coulter, Rush Limbaugh, these other people, it's very much in the heart of the movement in a way that it hasn't been since the 1930s, is my view. And I think it's a dangerous moment. Not that they're going to run out and win elections, but there are going to be people who are shot, and there's going to be more violence. There's going to be more crazy action. There's going to be a lot of what I consider to be anti-American and unpatriotic action, where you're hoping your president fails, where you would rather see the economy go down so you could win the next election. And I think it's a dangerous point in American history.